Hey, good morning. This is Jamie with Stonemaier Games, and welcome to the Stonemaier Games weekly live cast here on Facebook Live, and later to be posted on YouTube in case you have questions after this hour is finished. If you are watching this on YouTube, I'm live on Facebook every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Time to share Stonemaier Games news, to discuss random topics, and answer your questions. And today is a fun video because it is e-newsletter day, our monthly e-newsletter. And we have some big news shared in this month's e-newsletter. Two pieces of news centered around the new Wingspan Oceania expansion. So this is the expansion that we announced a while ago due to the fires in Australia, the wildfires in Australia, because we wanted to have a charitable effort to support the birds that have been damaged and hurt and killed by the millions, unfortunately, in those wildfires. We wanted to support those relief efforts. So we announced it early. So normally I would be announcing the location of the expansion today, but I revealed it much earlier this year. However, this is the full box. I won't show you the back of the box because I always make that mistake, but this is what the box looks like. The box top, it's the kookaburra on the top of the box. We have the emu over here. We have the cockatiel over here, and the kiwi, the North Island kiwi over here, and finally the kia over here on the side of the box. This is what the box looks like. Now, a special signed version of this box in this expansion, advanced copies of the expansion, have been signed by designer Elizabeth Hargrave, and they are a part of the Stonemaier Games annual 2020 annual charity auction. So the link, the slight delay for this video was due to me not realizing that the charity auction wouldn't go live when I pressed go live. It needed to be unprivated and unhidden. It is live now, so if you clicked on the link before and didn't work, the link should work now. We have our annual charity auction. And there is a link in the description of this video to our e-newsletter, and the links in that to the charity auction should work now. If not, let me know. But you can go over to that charity auction and check it out, even if you don't plan on bidding on any of the 10 items. But I'll describe in this video in a minute in detail what that means. But you can take a look at it right now if you'd like while I'm talking about it. I see some questions here about why the box size is different in this expansion. Why is it a little different? And we designed our box sizes, our expansion box sizes in particular, to hold the components for those expansions. I haven't revealed the components of this expansion yet, other than the eggs. I will start revealing those other components tomorrow. But you can kind of maybe start to guess why this box is this size for a particular component that's in that box. Thank you, Cody, for posting the link to that charity auction. So the whole idea behind this charity auction sprung up, what, 6-7 years ago, I think, when I wanted to combine a few things. One is that the 10 different items listed on the auction are related to 10 different board game related content creators, like bloggers, reviewers, video creators, Instagrammers, podcasters that I really love and admire, and I want to share with more people. And so every year I reach out to 10 different creators in that category, and I ask them if they want to participate in the auction, and all they have to do is say yes, because the auction is designed to support them, to bring more audiences to those wonderful content creators. That's part of it. The other part of it is that each of those content creators then gets to choose a charity that they're passionate about. And you can place bids on BoardGameGeek for each of those different charities that they've selected. And then Stonemaier Games, a few things happens then. So if you win an auction, if you have the highest bid, it's a very short auction, it only lasts a few days. If you have the highest bid, you'll win a signed copy of the new Wingspan expansion, an advanced signed copy of this new expansion, shipped to you next week, much earlier than regular pre-order people who will get it in November, December. You will also get a signed copy of the hardcover, let's see if I can pull it out here, the hardcover Scythe Complete Rulebook. It's not quite ready yet, so this will ship separately, but it will ship fairly soon. And you'll also get to go to our website, our web store, and pick one of anything you want. You can pick any product that you have that you want that's in stock on the Stonemaier Games web store, and you win that as well. Yeah, so that's what you get if you win one of these 10 auctions. Everyone will get the same thing except for the item that you choose from our web store. And along with that, your winning bid will be matched by Stonemaier Games with a donation to Arch City Defenders, which is a group in St. Louis, a nonprofit group that largely supports people who have been like unjustly tried. They're supporting the legal aspect of. Let me see if I can find the actual description here. It's a St. Louis-based advocacy group. You can look up more information about Arch City Defenders, but it's part of our 2020 BIPOC effort to support Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And this group, Stonemaier Games is based in St. Louis. This group is also based in St. Louis. Fulfillrite, a fulfillment company, is also matching the highest bid of all the auctions. So one bid, whatever the highest bid of all the auctions, they're going to match that winning bid with their donation going to that charity. And if you don't want to bid on any of this, and maybe you don't even care about discovering new content creators, things like that, you can go to the auction and find your favorite creator that you've already heard of, maybe, and just press the thumb on Board Game Geek under their auction item, and we are going to donate for the creator that gets the most thumbs. We are going to Stonemaier Games will donate $1 per thumb to their charity auction. So you don't have to do anything there. You don't have to pay anything. All you have to do is go to the Geek List and press a thumb, and that will possibly significantly increase a charitable donation to one of those charities. All right, so I've talked a lot here. Let me scroll back and see if what questions I missed. If I do miss a question, feel free to repeat it. I'm sorry if I missed it. Okay, I see the question. Okay, Chad says, do I have an... okay, I'll back up a little bit. Ephraim says, when is the pre-order? The pre-order's in late October. Chad says, do I have a favorite new bird if I can share it at this time? I do have some favorite new birds in this expansion, but I can't share it yet. The ones that I have the most thematic connection to are those in New Zealand, because around this time last year I was visiting New Zealand, so I got to see many of these birds in person. Brett also asked, when can we pre-order? The pre-order for this expansion is in late October, shipping in November. Cody says, can I show the finish on the hardcover Scythe rulebook? It is a kind of a smooth finish on the rulebook, on the outside. I don't know if you can see it here. And the pages in the Scythe rulebook are that fancy material that we use for all of our rulebooks now, kind of that fancy texture material. Cody says, have the Automa misprints been included in the hardcover signed copies that will be rewarded for the auction? No, we are fixing those before we finalize or we have fixed them, and we're using them in the hardcover version that we're now printing. Let's see. Jake says, is that a kookaburra on the cover? Yes. So this is the Wingspan Oceania expansion that is a kookaburra on the cover. That's all the questions I see for now. Feel free to ask anything you want. I'm happy to answer, unless you're asking about specific stuff that's in the expansion, because that I will reveal over the next week. I'm not revealing that today. So I will deflect those questions as best I can. Brist says, do I have any advice for Kickstarter projects that don't fulfill or that don't reach their funding goal on the first day of the campaign? Yeah, I think a lot of projects don't reach the funding goal on the first day of the campaign. It's great if they do, but it isn't an absolute necessity if they do, as long as you have a pretty good forward momentum on that day. I think you might want to be concerned if you haven't reached, say, 30% on the first day. And it does raise a challenge. I mean, it does throw up a red flag. I know this isn't advice, but it throws up a red flag that maybe something inherently is wrong with the campaign or with your audience building before the campaign. But it's not too late. I think that is the time to talk to people who haven't backed it and learn why, and talk to backers who have already backed it and see what you can do better for them, how you can improve the project for them to draw in more of an audience and to share it with other people. So it's a time to collect feedback very quickly and act on that feedback to the best of your ability, or determine from that feedback that you just need to restart it, that you've done something wrong, unfortunately, and you need to restart it, which is fine. It is fine to come back. There are plenty of projects that come back and reboot and are very successful after they come back. Patrick says, can I tell you if there will be any new round end goals and bonus cards? I will reveal that soon, Patrick. That's a good question about the components in the box. Corey says, what accessories or features do you think are a must-have for a board game table? He's looking at making his own for a little do-it-yourself project. Features for a board game table. Well, things that I like card holders built into the table, like that little slit in the table where the cards can kind of lean up. I really like that. I like drink holders a lot on the sides of the table so you can't spill drinks. I really like the dual layered tables where you can take off the top, especially in multiple sections, so it's easy to take off for one person. Take off multiple sections and reveal the table below it. So you can have maybe a legacy game, a campaign game on the table at all times, and then you put the top back on, or the top pieces back on, to play other games, to eat meals, things like that. I like that feature as well. Tim says, did the rulebook revisions work out? Yes, they did. This is for the Scythe complete rulebook. We had some issues not related to the Automa team at all. They were Automa rules issues that were related to the composition of the rulebook, not the Automa team at all. And we have fixed those, and we are reprinting the Scythe complete rulebook with those issues. If you already have the Scythe complete rulebook and you don't play solo, you don't need to worry about it. Your rulebook is perfectly fine. But if you do play Automa, you probably will want the revised version that we are sending out to anyone who already purchased it. Jake says, which expansion was more difficult to design for Elizabeth? Elizabeth may need to answer that herself. I can speak from the publisher perspective that Elizabeth has a lot of, her time is pulled in a lot of different directions now because she is designing more games. She has other very successful games that have come out. She's working with other publishers. She has a lot of interviews, people who ask her for her time. And so, which she seems to enjoy giving. She's a wonderful person to talk to. And so I think this expansion probably took a little bit more time because she has less time, because she has her time pulled in very different directions now. So that's not really related to the game design itself, more to Elizabeth's time. Gerald says, what's a reasonable percentage or deal to offer the owner of a non-famous IP if the owner never thought about licensing their IP? That's a good question. I mean, you could start at, I wouldn't go over 10%, but you could start at 5% if it's a non-famous IP where you're not really gaining much from the audience of that IP. I would start at 5% and not go over 10% if the owner wants to negotiate. Chad says, can I show the front of the box once more? Sure, yeah, I'll hold this up as I talk here. This is the Wingspan box. There's also images on our website that you can check out. Yeah. Let's see. Ben says, there was talk of deadly snakes in the Wingspan Oceania expansion that you can place in other biomes to bring direct conflict into the game. How much of that is true? I'm not sure where that came from, Ben, because Wingspan is not a game about direct conflict. It's not a game about snakes. This is a game about birds. So definitely no deadly snakes or direct conflict in this expansion. And I honestly don't think any expansion will have those elements. It is possible that we will someday post a promo pack that maybe has other creatures. But even then, I don't think there will be direct conflict. Mike says, oh, actually, Mike is tied to our chocolate of the day today, or my chocolate of the day. Mike was very kind to send me a bag of popcorn, sweet popcorn, Moose Tracks popcorn from Harry and David. And Mike, I wanted to thank you for doing that. And Mike's question is, have I learned a lot about birds from publishing Wingspan, or have you always enjoyed wildlife and birds? I have. I would say I've learned a lot more from birds from Wingspan, from publishing Wingspan, from being part of the design process of Wingspan and the development process than I ever have before. Yeah, definitely. I think my knowledge, it's still very small compared to the birders out there, but I definitely know a lot more about birds now than I did before Wingspan. Chad says, do the rules tell a player that tell the player that who places a kookaburra onto their board to make a kookaburra call as loud as they can? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know the flavor text of the kookaburra offhand, but I don't think it says that. Ryan says, you mentioned you had started indoor climbing before lockdown. What type of climbing and why do you enjoy it? Yeah, thanks for asking about that. Last year, I would say around maybe March, April, I got into indoor rock climbing as kind of my athletic sport of choice for the last year. I haven't done it since the pandemic started, but I really do love top roping in particular. I bouldering, I've done a little bit of bouldering. I haven't done lead climbing, but I do love top roping, which is basically where the rope is, for those of you who don't know, where the rope is already attached to the wall. You get into a safety harness, you attach the rope to yourself, and someone typically helps you belay up the wall, or get up the wall. They hold one end of the rope. There's also auto belays that you can use with a similar system. I prefer someone behind me, but the auto belay system works well too. and I climb at a local gym in St. Louis that I'm hoping to get back to soon. I'm wearing a mask, washing my hands a lot. More recently, this summer, I got into disc golf just to have some sort of activity, outdoor activity, and I've really enjoyed it. And I actually spent, you may have noticed I wasn't on this live cast last week. Last week, I spent a few days in Colorado at a very small wedding, very, very small wedding in Colorado. And we played a lot of disc golf in Colorado while we were there in some very beautiful scenic locations, which I was very lucky to participate in. You can see some photos of that. I think I'll put some photos of that on Instagram in the near future. But I did put them on my personal blog, jamiestegmeyer.com. Gerald says, how is Seikatsu with 2 players? Honestly, I would never play Seikatsu with any player count other than 3 players. I think it is a fantastic 3-player game. I wouldn't play with other player counts. I think it's designed specifically for 3 players. Ephraim says, where can we buy that t-shirt? Yeah, this is my Stonemaier Games t-shirt. We sell this twice a year to Stonemaier ambassadors. So feel free to look up on our website what a Stonemaier ambassador is, and if that the philosophy of the program applies to you, feel free to apply for it, and ambassadors have the opportunity to buy the t-shirt. This is specifically for ambassadors. Brett says, can I talk about a price point for the expansion for Wingspan? The price point for the Wingspan expansion will be revealed in late October when the pre-order goes live. Let me get a little drink of water here. Lots of questions today. Thank you for joining me for this chat. Again, if you missed it, if you tried to click the link to the charity auction when you got the e-newsletter like a half hour ago and it wasn't working, click it again. It's working now. I accidentally had it set to private or hidden, but it definitely seems to be working now. People are finding it. I can see the bids coming in. Isaac says, good morning. Have you all been using Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator or other online ways to playtest your games? What do you think about companies using that? I think it's a great solution for companies to playtest right now, or even to pitch their games to publishers, for designers to pitch their games. I do not love playing on those systems compared to the tabletop. I much prefer the tabletop. But I do think those systems are creative ways to playtest remotely right now in times where it is difficult to playtest in person. Let's see. Tony says, our group played Tapestry with the new expansion last night and enjoyed it. He says, we noticed that our scores across the board always seem to be low, like in the 150 to 175 range, which is perfectly respectable. We see comments from people online with much higher scores. Even the rulebook says 300 is a great score. Any idea what we might be missing or scoring incorrectly to cause us to have low scores consistently? You know, Tony, I'm not entirely sure. Try to read over your comment to see if there's something I can tell from the comment that you might be missing. It is quite possible that you're not missing anything. There are some people that are very good at optimizing in Tapestry and really good at getting as much income as possible, going after income buildings very early in such a way that that income steamrolls over the course of the game. So you might try that, maybe really focus on getting income early, and so that you get that income every round, and you can then get more income, and by your fourth or fifth income turns, you have so much income coming in that it results in longer turns that kind of steamroll and snowball. That might be it. I don't know. I doubt you're playing a rule incorrectly. But you could always maybe watch a playthrough of the game to see on YouTube to see if the person doing the playthrough is doing something differently than you. Tim says, I saw the Stonemaier email, but I didn't see a non-charity auction for getting the hardcover rulebook. Oh, that's a good question, Tim. Yeah, it's not available yet, but when it is available, it'll be on our web store. We will share it in the Scythe Facebook group and in our monthly e-newsletter. I'm thinking it should be ready in early 2021. James says, when do we see the back of the box for the Oceania expansion? That'll be after I reveal all the stuff, because the back of the box lists everything that's in the box. So I don't want to reveal that yet, because that information is what I'll be revealing over the next week. Mary says, how much do I enjoy reading all the guessing people are making about the expansion? It's fun. I hope people are having fun with it. As long as you're having fun with it, I have fun reading about it. Danny says, how often do I play Scythe, the digital version? Hardly ever. I love playing Scythe, but I don't reserve much time for playing digital games. I play them every now and then, usually to learn from a digital game and then post about it. But playing my own games, I'm not really learning all that much from playing my own games repeatedly on the digital interface. So hardly ever, yeah. But I hope you have fun with it. Lees says that Gold and Rolling Realms, so codename Gold and Rolling Realms, are planned for 2021. Are those both your games or from another designer? I won't talk about Gold yet, but Rolling Realms is a game that I designed. It's originated as a print and play game, which is still on our website, and yeah, that's my design. David says, since so many expansions are planned for the future of Wingspan, one per continent is the idea that we're doing. So we have 4 more continents remaining. How would you manage to play future expansions? There's going to be a lot of cards, and he's just wondering, how would you recommend to play the game? Yeah, we actually mentioned this in the Wingspan Oceania rulebook, because it is a lot of cards to shuffle. The way that I will probably play is I will still continue to mash all those cards together and pick a stack, and we'll use that stack for the game. And maybe even set that stack aside and play with a different stack in a future game. So we're getting different cards every time we play. However, we say in the rulebook that we kind of recommend that you choose 2 different sets, like the core game and 1 expansion, or 2 different expansions, and shuffle those together and play with those every time you play. There's no real wrong way to do that. You can combine everything if you want, or you can combine 1 or 2 expansions, the core game and an expansion. They're all kind of modular in that way. So whatever works for you and your shuffling system, because you're right, there are a lot of cards to shuffle. Levy says, based on your works in progress, can we expect Codename Gold to be the next new game that Stonemaier will release? That is how it's looking, but you never know. A lot of things can happen during the production and shipping process. One game can jump ahead of the next. An expansion can jump ahead or move back. So that is currently the plan, but we will see about that. Bruce says, I haven't played Wingspan enough to know if there's an overpowered combo in it. Is there even one? I think some people would say that the Ravens are a little bit overpowered. There are a few Raven cards that are very good. But we designed the cards in Wingspan, or Elizabeth designed and I helped develop the cards in Wingspan to be circumstantially good, great even, but also fairly balanced across the spectrum. So I wouldn't say there's an overpowered spectrum, but combo. But there is circumstantially, you might combo some birds together that really works for you, or really works for the goals or the bonus cards in that particular game or that particular scenario, and that can turn out really well. Actually, speaking of scenario, I said the word scenario. You might have seen on Board Game Geek and on the Wingspan Facebook group that a book publisher has revealed that he's been working on named Todd Satterson. He's been working on a kind of a campaign version of Wingspan that you can check out. So I saw his e-newsletter about it yesterday, a blog post about it, and it looks really cool. So I'm curious to see what you think if you've played through that kind of campaign version of Wingspan. Oh, and Paul just mentioned it. That's a great, good timing, Paul. Maybe I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Yeah, Paul. Yeah, it's called Nature Preserve, is the unofficial campaign created by Todd. Eric says, knowing that Time Stories is one of your favorite games, I finally got to play the base game with my game group. Such a great experience. I'm really glad you liked it, Eric. That is one of my favorite games. Very much like Groundhog Day, where you're kind of repeating the same day over and over, but learning a little bit more each time. What is your favorite Time Stories expansion? My favorite is the Dragon one, Prophecy of Dragons. For some spoiler reasons that I won't mention, but also just for the thematic atmosphere of high fantasy. I had a lot of fun with it. It's not even entirely fantasy. It's more medieval, but there is fantasy in it. Looks like Jamie's joining us. Another Jamie's joining us for the first time in a long time. Good to have you here, Jamie. Andrew says, what if there was a new birdhouse mechanism that had a divider? Oh, he's speculating. I see. Not a question. Justin says that disc golf has brought a lot of positivity into his life, and that's wonderful to hear, Justin. I've really enjoyed disc golf over the summer as well. Jake says, seeing as this is an Oceania expansion, have you thought about doing any Stonemaier visits or events down here once the pandemic hopefully relaxes enough for international travel? Well, Jake, I actually went to New Zealand around this time last year. Not related to my company. It was more vacation for Megan and I. But so I'm probably not going back anytime soon, but I did absolutely love my time in New Zealand. I've been to Australia as well, but it was a long time ago. I don't have any trips planned there. And Stonemaier Games is not really an event-driven company, but if anyone down there wants to host an event safely for Wingspan Oceania, you're welcome to do so. Whether it's now or next year when it's a lot safer to do so. Justin says, did I get to play Lake Dilian? I haven't heard of Lake Dilian, no. In Colorado, we played, I'm going to forget the name of the courses now. Well, the one that I definitely remember was we played disc golf at the Arapahoe Basin, which is a ski resort in the winter, but in the summer, it's a disc golf course. We played there, and we played 2 times. I'm blanking on the name of the course. Yeah, I'll have to get the name of the course. I don't remember the name of it. But it was a beautiful course that kind of felt like we were at the beach, even though we were in Colorado. Alex says, do I have a release date for the French version of the Oceania expansion? That is a great question for Matago. And Matago isn't actually supposed to reveal that yet. But later this month, they will be able to reveal the French release date for the expansion. Peter says he loves the Tapestry expansion. That's great. I hope those of you who now have the Tapestry expansion are playing with it. He says, is there a plan for another one, perhaps? We will see. We'll see if there's more in the works for Tapestry. It depends partially on how the current expansion is received and what people think about it and if they want more. Mo says, are there animeeples in the Wingspan Oceania? You'll have to find out over the next week as I reveal the components of the expansion. Michael has a possible theory for how lower scores in Tapestry can happen. He says one of the issues that can lead to lower scores is overlooking the fact that you can always get the resource printed on a hex tile when you place it via the Explorer action. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when you explore, you get 2 benefits. You get the resource on the tile, and you get victory points based on some what the edges are aligned with. Tim says, were you revealing the new component for Oceania expansion of Wingspan today? No. Now, today is just the reveal of the box top itself and the eggs, or mention of the eggs, which I had mentioned before, the 15 yellow eggs in the expansion. Let's see if I can find them. Yeah, here are the yellow eggs. And the announcement of the charity auction, the related charity auction for that's related to the expansion, because one of the things that you get if you win the charity auction or win any of the winning bids is a signed advanced copy of the expansion. I'm going to pause for questions real quick. Let me see if there's any. Oh, yeah, I did want to mention Eugenia and Matt, some Pendulum fans, sent me these really, really awesome overlays for the Pendulum mats. I don't know if you can see it, but there are these laser cut plastic overlays that have indentations where you can put the resources, where you can put your victory point tokens, and I haven't completely peeled off the paper yet, but it's 2 different parts that are magnetized and held together. I thought this was really beautiful and cool. And thank you so much for Eugenia and Matt for sending this to me. I can't wait to play Pendulum with these fancy mats. I think they shared the template in the Pendulum group. Feel free to check it out if you're looking for the template, or maybe they're selling them. I don't know. It is possible Stonemaier will consider making these with their permission and compensating Eugenia and Matt for their design, because one really nice thing about this is they created a one-size-fits-all version of this. There's only one version of this that works for all different mats. So I thought that was really a really clever design touch in this. Really, really nice. Thank you for sending that to me. I also did a recent video. My Sunday sit-down video this past week was about my thoughts on the Board Game Geek top 11 through 20 ranked games, currently ranked games. And I also talked about, in my video this coming week, I will talk about my favorite maps in tabletop games. And my post on Monday was about t-shirts. It was about the making of t-shirts. If you want to make a t-shirt, some things to consider as you make it, especially going for kind of nicer shirts with nicer material that people really enjoy wearing. We love Bella Canvas and a special Anvil Tri-Blend shirt here at Stonemaier Games. I have a few other topics, but they're just kind of fun little topics, so I'll come back to them in a minute. Sarah says, will I be releasing the content of the Oceania expansion over a matter of the next few days or weeks? Yeah, I think it'll be maybe a 7 to 10 day process of me revealing the various content, starting with the big stuff and then getting down to some very specific card abilities that I want to share with you. Victor says, have I thought about starting organized play events of any of the Stonemaier games, giving the players the opportunity to win promos? That's a great question. The very short answer is that our games are not really designed for that, and Stonemaier Games isn't really designed around the idea of having organized play events. So that isn't a strategy that we're going to pursue, but we do love when people host events on their own accord for our games, just for fun. And if they want to have a prize, they can. If not, that's fine too. The purpose of our games is to have fun, not to compete in tournaments. We did try that very early, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right for our company, so we didn't pursue it. Let's see. Peter says, would I consider a wooden bird feeder for Wingspan? Playing the game so much, mine is pretty beat up. Peter, I would actually, that's a great question. I would recommend getting the wooden bird feeder from Tower Rex. Tower Rex designed the cardboard bird feeder, and they also make they make actually two versions of wooden versions of the bird feeder. You can buy it from them. It's a very reasonable price. That you can get from them, and it's a beautiful addition to the game. You can get like a really big complex one, or one that looks a lot more like the cardboard one in the box. John says, did I back the 25th Century's Jurassic Parts? He got his today, looks awesome. I didn't back that one, but I did back a game called Fossilis, which is another game based on archaeology. I don't know if Jurassic Parts is about archaeology, but it sounds kind of like that. Wayne says, do we need the European expansion to play with the Oceania expansion? And no, none of our expansions are dependent on each other, so you can just buy what you want and what interests you. Chad says, are there enough birds in Antarctica to make an expansion? I think so. Yeah, I think there are like 42 species of penguins down in Antarctica, along with a few other birds. Chris says, with the digital edition now out on Steam, yeah, that's great. I'm glad you mentioned that, Chris, because I wasn't here last week to mention it. Scythe is now available on iOS and Android, I think, and Wingspan, not this expansion, but Wingspan is available on Steam, and the other versions are coming soon, like iOS, Android, and Switch are coming soon. Chris says, with the digital edition now out on Steam, will we see expansions added to the game? Yes. You will at some point, but it'll take some time, especially since the core game isn't even available on all the platforms it needs to be at this point. Rachel says, I haven't played in a bit, but are the cards marked in some way to make separating them easier? Yes, there are little markings on each of the expansion cards that show what expansion they're in. Like in the European expansion, it's a little circle that says EE, European expansion. In Oceania, I believe it should be OE. Let's see. Yep, OE is on the bottom right-hand corner of the cards. I know this is probably agonizing for you, knowing that I have an advanced copy right off camera here and you can't see what's in it. But I will be revealing all those components over the next week so you can see exactly what's in this new expansion. Let's see, Dusty says he wanted to ask this question so we can see the answer later. I noticed that the viticulture expansion has a hard... it's noted as a hard 2021 date. I don't know if the viticulture expansion will actually be ready for 2021, but we're aiming for it. That's the target. Is this accidental, or is the expansion work going well enough to call it a 2021 release already? It's a little soon to tell. I'm definitely aiming for a 2021 release for the new viticulture expansion, but I don't know for sure. It's hard to know for sure for anything until we're actually finished with it. But that's the target, and it is going well, so I'm hoping that'll actually happen. Fenna says, am I really planning on designing a complete Antarctica expansion? Antarctica is a continent, and we're hoping to do one expansion per continent for Wingspan, so we really are hoping to get to Antarctica someday. Yeah, we will see about that. Paul, thank you for sharing the link to Todd Satterson's unofficial Wingspan campaign. Michael says, is the Cape and Code... Oh, Michael has a question about code names. I don't answer questions about code names. Briss says, is there any popular franchise that you see yourself bringing into a board game? I don't know if we could afford a really, really popular franchise, like a Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. I don't know if we could keep our prices low enough to afford the licenses for those types of games. So I doubt it. Let's see. I'm pretty far behind on questions, so I'll try to speed through a few of them. Tim says, "Do I see the effects of pandemic on physical game sales and on digital versions?" We definitely have seen higher royalties come in for like Tabletop Simulator, especially Tabletopia. The royalties on our games have been way higher during the pandemic there because I think a lot of people have been playing on that platform. Yeah. Mark says, "Can I tell us something about the expansion for viticulture?" Not at this point yet. I am excited to talk about it next year, but it has a lot to go through before we're ready to talk about it. Michael says that he says, "I think port lovers, the drink port, can all agree that this delightful beverage is tragically missing from viticulture. Are there any plans to rectify this travesty in the viticulture expansion?" You'll have to see about that, Michael, next year. Rolling with Rock says, "Just a fun fact for you. He's currently putting together his top 67 games of all time." Interesting number, 67, Rock. And he's having a hard time deciding between two of our games, Stonemaier games, as number one. Wow. That's awesome to hear. I'm glad you enjoy two of our games enough to even consider them for being on the list, much less at number one. I'm excited to see which one you pick. David says, "Will I provide the Stonemaier egg containers in this expansion?" And he says there are some negative Nancy's, but he loves them. I'm glad you like them. They couldn't fit in this box, so there are no plastic containers in this box. Briss says, "How excited am I about Halloween? Am I a chocolate kind of guy?" I'm definitely a chocolate kind of guy. Yeah, I do a chocolate of the day every time I do one of these videos. I'm excited about the post-Halloween sale because we don't get trick-or-treaters here. Yeah, I mean, I don't really do anything for Halloween at this point as a 39-year-old, but I do love chocolate. So if there's a sale on good chocolate the day after Halloween, I'm all over it. Let's see, people are talking about something they bought. I think maybe they're talking about containers. Oh, we do now package the Stonemaier plastic resource containers into sets of 5. It's a new, we used to sell them in sets of 2. Now we pre-package them. They come in a box of 5. And those are now available on our web store, both in clear and the chocolate color. So you can differentiate between candy eggs and real, or not real eggs, but plastic eggs. So you can put the candied eggs in the chocolate colored boxes and the other ones in the clear containers. They're both on our web store now. Oh, looks like they're not talking about that. They're talking about the clear overlays that I mentioned a little bit ago from Eugenia and Matt that they sent me. Yeah. Morgan says, "The egg colors in Wingspan are just so satisfying so far." Yeah, thank you. We try to pick a variety of colors. I know they look a little like Easter colored, but we just want a variety of colors, and ideally those that match the core color of the expansion. Morgan says, "You don't have to slip and tell us what they are, but do you have the rest of the egg color palette picked out?" We don't. No, we don't have it picked out for the future. But we are hoping to align. I kind of missed this with the European expansion. I didn't align the core ability color in that expansion with the box color and the egg color. The box and the eggs were purple. The core ability that we added there was teal, right? Should have been purple. Didn't think about that. But I'm hoping to align that better in future expansions. And I won't guarantee that we're going to put new eggs in every expansion. I think we will, but at some point we just have enough. You have enough eggs. You don't need any more eggs. But I do want to respect something I mentioned earlier, that you don't need to buy every expansion for Wingspan. For those of you who skipped the European expansion, you might just buy this one. You might buy no expansions. And so there are plenty of people out there that might buy the Wingspan core game and like one expansion that excites them. So that's a reason for me to maybe put eggs in every expansion. So even if you only buy 1 or 2, that you're going to get some eggs with the expansion that you choose. Jake says, "Am I excited for the Agora expansion for Seven Wonders Duel, which adds political supremacy as an extra victory condition?" I did not know about that. I'm going to make a note about that. I actually haven't even played the first expansion for Seven Wonders Duel, but I love the instant victory conditions in that game, so I'm excited to check that out. Thank you for letting me know. I'm also really excited about the Fantasy Realms expansion, which I haven't seen the ability to pre-order that yet, but I look forward to doing that. Andrew says, as a very nice comment about my games, I'll jump to the question, Andrew. He says, "So far we have Wingspan and Scythe, and they love the story, the surprises, the modular ways to play. Which games would I recommend next?" So if you love Wingspan and Scythe, Wingspan has some. So if you're looking for games that aren't Stonemaier games, Wingspan has some roots in Terraforming Mars, although it was designed before Elizabeth played Terraforming Mars, and Gizmos. I think both of those games have kind of the feel of Wingspan. Scythe was inspired by Kemet and Terra Mystica, two great games. If you like those games and you want to try another Stonemaier game, I'd probably recommend Viticulture. Viticulture has that engine building feel, or Tapestry. Viticulture and Tapestry have those strong engine building feels of both Wingspan and Scythe. But it's up to you. We don't have that many games, so it's probably pretty easy for you to scan through them and see which one's for you. We have a gift guide on our website that might also help you, kind of a gift guide based on personality type. So you can look at the gift guide and see which game is a good fit for your personality and your style of play. Wayne says, any thoughts on a pendulum expansion? We haven't really talked about it yet, but I know Travis has some ideas, so it is a possibility. We'll see what he comes up with. Marcus says, can I share any information about the release dates of the localizations of the Oceania expansion? That's up to our localization partners to reveal. I think most of them are hoping to get it in by the holiday season this year, but it will be pretty tight. We did work with them to get it through as fast as possible, so it could be a 2021 release in English and other languages. But that's up for them to reveal. Connor says he misses me. Connor is from Inside Up Games, and I mentioned on earlier in this livecast that I was in Colorado last week, and we made sure to play Connor's game Summit, which is a mountain climbing game, while we were in the mountains of Colorado, because it just felt thematically appropriate to play it there. We also played The Crew, a lot of The Crew while we were there, and a lot of disc golf, and we watched a lot of sumo wrestling, which I also mentioned on my blog yesterday. Just kind of a random thing, but Megan's brother loves sumo wrestling, and we kind of got into it as a nightly habit of watching the recap of the current sumo wrestling tournament that just finished up in Japan. It's actually a really fun sport if you learn just a little bit about it, which Eric knew. It's a lot of fun to watch. Jake says, you mentioned a while back that you were working on getting Tapestry on Board Game Arena. Is that still going smoothly? I don't know. We did hand over the files to Board Game Arena, and I'm hoping it's going smoothly, the development process, but we won't really know until they tell me that it's ready. Briss says, do I follow any reviewers when they talk about your games? I try on purpose not to listen to what reviewers say about our games because I don't want that to impact me. I want to stay completely unbiased as to what reviewers think about Stonemaier games. But I do follow a ton of reviewers, hundreds of reviewers, in terms of their thoughts of other games from other companies, so I can learn from those games, knowing that I can't play every game, but I can listen to reviewers' thoughts on all of those other games. Danny says, do I know if Scythe Digital will have the other two expansions? I know that they are working on it. Which one are they working on right now? I mean, they have Invaders from Afar. I think they're working on the Wind Gambit next, but I have encouraged them to maybe go to Scythe Encounters with a modular board because I think that would be faster for them to implement than Wind Gambit and Rise of Fenris, which will require a lot more programming. But it's kind of up to them where they want to allocate their resources. Gary says, with the popularity of whiskey around the world, would you ever consider a game based around whiskey? Maybe, but I actually think there's a game called Distilled that will be on Kickstarter soon that is unrelated to Stonemaier games, but I know that they were inspired by viticulture. I don't know if the mechanisms exactly were inspired by viticulture or just the game idea itself, but I think a company may already be doing it. So I'm excited to see what they come up with. Bruce says, related to the Wingspan Oceania expansion, I'm guessing that you've already covered this, but does the expansion offer a box that will hold everything? If so, does it have room for neoprene rats? Yeah, Bruce, you may have seen this, or maybe you haven't seen this on the announcement, but in the first design diary post that I posted about this, I mentioned that we are working on a big box solution, a big box with an organizer for Wingspan, because while we were going to wait to do that until after all the expansions were released, it's just too much content. People need a way to hold that content. So we are working on that, and just to be very clear, I want to say this every time I mention this big box, there will be no gameplay content in the box. It will just be a box and an organizer, and it will be modular. So if you've already bought an organizer from any of the other companies that make organizers for Wingspan, you can take out part of our organizer and put in that organizer, hopefully. I'm not directly working with those companies, but I'm trying to keep that in mind because I know many of you have already invested a lot in organizers for Wingspan. And yes, it will hold all Wingspan content, the core game expansions, neoprene mats, any official Wingspan content. It'll be designed to hold. And we're trying to also keep in mind the nice Meeple source tokens that they've made, the big wooden tokens, to have them fit inside the organizer as well, even though they're not an official Stonemaier thing. Eric says, when am I able to estimate when I'm going to start talking about codename Gold? Not at this point, no. Not able to estimate that yet. A lot of things happen during the production process and the shipping process. Chris says, are there any plans of releasing My Little Scythe on any online platforms? We do have a digital partner for My Little Scythe, and I don't know the timeline for it, but there is a company that has the digital license for it. Rachel says, have I thought about doing an ocean-themed game? Basically Wingspan, but with ocean creatures with the different layers, depths of the ocean. I think that's a great idea. We don't have any plans for it, but I like the way that you said that the ocean, kind of the different depths of the ocean could fit really well with different types of aquatic creatures and the different kind of layers of the water that they fit into. Yeah, I really like that idea. Yeah. Jeremy says, he has a question about the content of the Wingspan Oceania expansion. I'm not revealing that yet, but I will over the next few days. Just stay tuned to the Wingspan Facebook group and the Wingspan Oceania page on our website. Briss says, should I wait to get viticulture until new content comes out, or is it a fully complete game now? The word complete is a little hard to respond to, but I would say if you buy a copy of viticulture, you have a complete copy of viticulture. Then if you buy an expansion for viticulture, you then have a complete copy of viticulture with that expansion. So we're never going to do, well, I'm not going to say never. We don't have any plans to ever do like a big box thing where that negates previous purchases. So I don't have any plans to do a viticulture big box where I have viticulture and all the expansions in that box. It would be way too expensive, and I don't think it would be respectful to people who've already bought those expansions or those accessories piecemeal. So if you're interested in viticulture, go ahead and get it. And later on, you can add any expansions that you want or any accessories that you want to it. John says, with not having IP games, intellectual property games like Star Wars, the originality and freshness of Stonemaier games releases have been big draws. Oh, just a comment. Thank you, John. I thought that was a question. Let's see. I think Tim has a question here. I don't like the idea of people throwing away the beautiful art included in these expansions in the trash. Like, you totally get that, throwing away the box expansion, or the box, or recycling it, hopefully. It's nice that you have a big box coming. You mentioned previously, oh, actually, I wanted to mention this before I finish your comment, Tim. One thing that I think I announced in the newsletter, let me see if I did it. Yes, we have kind of not a breakthrough, but a good step towards being more environmentally friendly, which is our manufacturer Panda found really great plastic bags that are biodegradable. So while we only try to use plastic bags when necessary, sometimes they are necessary, and we now have a biodegradable solution. So rather than, the terrible thing about plastic is that it lasts forever, right? If it gets thrown away, it sits almost forever in landfills. So we only try to use plastic that people are going to use and not throw away, but eventually pretty much everything is going to end up in a landfill. And so Panda found a biodegradable plastic that biodegrades after 2 to 3 years. It won't, if it's just sitting in your box, it's not like it's going to melt away. But for all of our, I think 2021 reprints and new releases will have these new plastic bags. You probably won't even be able to tell the difference because they look and feel pretty much the same, but they will be biodegradable. So for those of you who keep me on my toes in terms of environmental issues, I just want to let you know that it is important to me. We have been working on it for a long time, especially with shrink wrap and plastic bags, anything that's disposable, potentially disposable. And we are working on it. And I think this is a big step forward. Back to Tim's question. He says, you mentioned previously the idea of having expansions in bags other than the issue with retail stores. I wonder if this would be an option for those who toss boxes. It's something that I do think about every time we make an expansion. Should we, for those who want to buy directly from us, should we package some of them differently? And I think the answer is we should do it sometimes, and maybe I haven't done it enough. But I think it really depends on there being space for the content. And for the Oceania expansion, there really isn't space for a lot of the content in the core box. So I didn't want to do it with this one. But in the future, it is a possibility. If I know that the content will all fit into a box that you already have, that I might offer an kind of a non-cardboard box version of the expansion for people who just want to get that content and put it into their core box. Yeah. Let's see. Craig says, Craig's commenting on my comment about how you don't have to buy every expansion for Wingspan. Let's see. Joe says, I'm taking a GIS course this semester and we have to do a project. Any interesting ideas for a project that could be answered via a spatial analysis related to board games? I'm considering looking at the relation of friendly local game stores to demographics or convention locations to amenities and or gamer location density. Ooh, Joe, this is really interesting. I don't know if I have a great answer for you right away, but I love data-driven investigations like that. I think it would be just the buying behavior in general of people, I think, is really interesting, whether they prefer friendly local game stores, online stores, Amazon buying on Kickstarter directly from the publisher. So something about all that and why, and breaking down those different buying preferences into segments. And yeah, I would be very interested in that. So, but I guess you're looking for spatial, so like location-based stuff. So you could look at that too, like if people live really close to a friendly local game store, are they much more likely to buy from that store rather than buy online? Things like that. Jeremy says, the world of Scythe is so rich. Have you considered creating a farming resource game based in that world? Well, we kind of have. That's Scythe is partially a resource production game. But he says, okay, like zooming in on one of the hex spaces and farming in living scale in that place. That's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought about that, but I like that that is capturing your imagination for other games in the Scythe world. Paul says, what's my personal blog address? I have two blogs. The Stonemaier Games blog is stonemeiergames.com. My personal blog is jamiestegmeyer.com. Nathan says, I see a lot of elements from Deus in Wingspan. Any idea if that was a design influence? I don't think so. I always forget what Elizabeth was influenced by for Wingspan. It was a specific, well, I don't think it was a specific game, but she had played a lot of games before Wingspan. She definitely hadn't played Terraforming Mars before Wingspan. She may have played Deus, but I'm not sure. Jell says, do I ever think I will release a Wingspan big box with all gameplay content in it? The answer is no. Almost definitely not. I would say definitely not. We are working on a big box with an organizer that won't have any gameplay content in it. It's just focused on the box and the organizer. But we typically don't package all of our games and expansions together into big boxes because it becomes cost prohibitive, and I don't think it's respectful to people who already bought those different elements separately. Mark says, have I already seen Mary Poses? Have I played it? I haven't played the final version yet, but I did play a prototype of it. Yeah. Sarah Beth says, will I be printing more full-size Wingspan neoprene player mats? Yes, yeah, we hope to make more of those. Yeah. Sam says, do I plan to officially reopen submissions sometime in the next few months? It's possible, Sam. We're still kind of booked out through like 2022, so I'm really hesitant to accept submissions knowing that we may not be able to publish the game until 2023 at the earliest. But it is possible that we will do that. Yeah. Bruce says, any plans to create an Android iOS app for Euphoria? Stonemaier Games doesn't actually create any apps ourselves, but if there is a digital company out there, a digital game company that wants the license to Euphoria, it is available, and I'm happy to discuss that with them. Andrew says, for Scythe, is there a possibility for metal characters or to know a place to have them made? No, we were not pursuing metal characters for Scythe. He says, also, I found that the complete rule book doesn't have an achievement sheet to refer to or scan. Are there plans to release the achievement sheets from the original expansions with the added factions to future books? Not in the book itself. I didn't think people would want to write in the book itself, although there is a Rise of Fenris place to write in the book. But they are available for download from our website. Chad says, how are my kids doing? I think he's referring to my cats. My cats are doing well. Not in here right now, though. Let's see. Rachel says, I haven't bought Pendulum yet. What's something about this game that you think is really awesome and would make me want to play it? I love the time optimization in Pendulum. I really, really love it. I love it. It's the same feel that I get from Solkin, which is one of my favorite games, in that the timing of when I'm putting down workers and when I'm deciding to pick them up really matters. And in Pendulum, that's really like, it comes down to the types of actions that you choose to put your workers on. Do you put your worker on an action where they're going to be committed to that action for a long time, and that's real actual time. It's not an abstracted use of time. It's real time that they are stuck on that action while they're doing that thing for a while. Do you choose a short action where they're just going to be there for a little while but you get a small benefit? Or do you choose a longer action where they're stuck there for a long time but they're getting a very powerful benefit when you pull them off? And all the stuff that you're doing while you have a worker on a longer action, you still have other workers that you're putting on shorter actions and getting benefits that you're using to maybe even make the benefit from the longer worker even better. Love that about the game. I do have, I think my favorite mechanism video, actually I do have Pendulum here in the background here, because Pendulum's retail release date is coming up this Friday. And so I'll be posting my favorite mechanism video for Pendulum this Friday. Cody says, how I decided if the big box will accommodate the neoprene mats rolled up or folded. I'm aiming for neither actually, for laying them flat. Tim says, how I make sure that all future content will fit into Wingspan Big Box when Elizabeth hasn't even designed it yet. That is a great question. But the idea is that we're making it modular. We're making it big and we're making it modular, so it can hold a lot of different types of content. We're going to get as close as possible to what we know now, or what we know when we finish designing the box, to get it right. But you're right, it might be slightly imperfect, but the modularity of it should help give people some flexibility as we release, as Elizabeth figures out what's going to be in the future expansions. We've discussed it a lot, we've brainstormed it a lot, so we have a lot of ideas of what might be in those expansions, but we don't know for sure. Brett says, any plans to add more kids games like My Little Scythe? Well, currently we don't make any kids games. We do make a family game, as you said. My Little Scythe is a family game. And we currently don't have any more plans to make family-specific games, but we do try to make all of our games so they are family-friendly and kid-friendly and adult-friendly. Bruce says, have I played Oceans from North Star Games? I've heard great things, but no, I haven't played it yet, Bruce. Someone just mentioned it in the comments on one of my YouTube videos the other day. Ooh, Connor says that he's working on an ocean-themed game in the Summit universe. That's really cool. That's exciting. Nathan says, why aren't there chickens in Wingspan? That's a great question, Nathan. I think there will be chickens in the game someday. Maybe even in Oceania. There might be a chicken in this expansion. We'll find out. I'm not quite sure. Joe says he loves Wingspan, but it seems to be an infinitely skinnable engine. Ever think about doing sports ball with it? No, and I haven't thought about doing sports ball with Wingspan. Let's see, a few more questions, and I'll take off for the day. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's live chat, and make sure to go check out the charity auction, even if it's just to thumb one of the content creators, because that will increase the amount that we give for the content creator whose charity auction has the most thumbs. We are going to give $1 per thumb to that the charity of their choice. So feel free to go check out that auction. James says, have I seen the video of the poor kid being swooped by a magpie? No, I haven't seen that. Let's see. Jake says, what's the highest number of times you've exploded in one game of Quacks of Quedlinburg? Have I ever thought about incorporating bag building as a core mechanic into a future Stonemaier game? I do love bag building, so yeah, I hope to use that someday. I've exploded maybe half the times in a game, so around, I think it's, 10 rounds, so around five or six times. I tend to push my luck a lot in that game. Danny says, is the Scythe saga over? We are done. The game side, the tabletop game side, we have completed that story, and there won't be any more Scythe expansions or Scythe content. I am open to the possibility of designing a new game in the Scythe world, though. Completely new game, not expansion content for the original game. Andrew says, with Wingspan, have we considered ways of increasing the player count in Wingspan? We have considered it. Yeah, you mentioned teams here. I don't know if it would be teams exactly, but some way to speed the game up as you add more players. We've talked about it. There's also the issue of table space. The Wingspan player mats take up a lot of space, and so I think there is a kind of a hard limit for most tables as to the number of players that could fit around that table. few more questions here. Almost done. Love these questions today. Thank you for joining me. Chris also asked about my kids, Biddy and Walter, my cats, and they are doing well. I think they're napping right now. George says, have I seen Tenet yet? No, still, I'm just not comfortable going to a movie theater yet, so I would gladly pay for it at home, but I haven't seen it yet. Daniel says, how is the age suggestion on the box determined? Is this a part of player testing? It's largely based on kind of reading ability at this point for Stonemaier games. We look at how much what a kid's reading ability would be, and that's largely what we base the age on for a box. That looks like the last question. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. I'm going to put this video up on YouTube. So if you have any questions that come up after you watch this, feel free to post them on the YouTube version of this video. And I look forward to revealing more about the Wingspan expansion in the coming days. Take care. Have a great Wednesday. I will see you next week. Bye.